and
it's
micro
variation. It's variation within a kind.
So I guess on a more controlled scale, we have a Chihuahua. On the other hand, we have a Great Dane.
Great Dane, Chihuahua. Those are extremes,
and we've sped up that evolutionary process.
Yeah, it would be a bad idea to breed a Chihuahua.
We've sped up that evolutionary process.
Well, that's not evolution.
Okay.
Evolution. All right. Now this is a very
natural selection.
Yeah, this is a very basic explanation for evolution. Okay.
All right.
It gets more complex if you talk to a real scientist. Okay, but they've got their higher complexities. But this is very basic.
I would argue that it's de-evolution, by the way, to breed Chihuahuas.
There you go. That's good. That's good. Okay. But you have the alphabet. Okay. This is a very basic explanation. You have the alphabet.
Okay.
It has 26 letters. Evolution, not evolution, but variation is to take the 26 letters and to create, a whole bunch of different, and mix them up and everything. But in the end, you've still got 26 letters no matter what. You might even be able to go, you might even be able to have 2 copies of the same letter, and that would be more like a mutation, and stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you might lose a letter,
Wolf and a dog.
Yeah, a wolf and a dog down to Chihuahua. Chihuahuas have lost some letters. Okay. And yeah.
Still a long word.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, but evolution requires that you've got 26 letters. Evolution requires a completely new letter. Okay. To be added to the 26.
I don't know about that.
That's what evolution is.
I guess going back to
it requires completely new information that was not there before.
I don't think so. I think it's.
What I'm saying is, now let me
Yeah.
Let me try to help you. Okay. So, and let me retread on what I already said. You may not have heard me.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right. You got 26 letters.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can get 27 letters because one of the letters will duplicate itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You end up with a cat that has an extra leg. Sometimes you end up with. And these are mutations.
You do?
Okay.
Turkeys with 6 legs are very
turtles with 2 heads.
popular on Thanksgiving.
Snakes. I've seen pictures of snakes and turtles with 2 heads. Siamese twins, have a human in the human population. You get Siamese twins, and these are mutations. Okay, and these are corruptions of the 26. These are examples of, again, I want to say that this is a very basic explanation. But the 26-letter alphabet, if you compared it to what's happening there, is kind of like having a letter that you got 2 of the same letter. Okay, you got 20. You might have a 27-letter alphabet, but 2 of the letters are the same, and that would be the same as having an extra arm grow out, or an extra leg, or having some sort of mutation. You add the same, but it's the same information being duplicated as opposed to
new information.
Right. If you were born without a leg, that would be an example of a 26-letter alphabet. No, if you're born without a leg, that'd be an example of like a 20-letter alphabet because you don't have the 5 letters necessary to have that extra leg. If you were born with only 1 leg or born with no legs at all, you're missing those letters. You're only born with a 20-letter alphabet. Does that make sense?
To me, it does. And maybe I'm completely off, but in the fact that you can have human-like malfunctions in terms of mutations. Yes, thank you. Basically, you can be born with an extra arm. That's a human-like arm still, but you can't be born with a chicken beak out of your back.
Right.
Because of a genetic mutation.
Exactly. That would require a new letter. Okay. Yeah. Every kind of animal would have its own alphabet. Okay. And let's say to be born with a chicken beak, you would require new letters that were not there before.
Right, but you could
not
have
just copies of the same letters or just of subtracted letters. You would require completely new letters in the alphabet that you possess that were not there before. That would be evolution.
Comprehend that.
Yeah, that would be evolution.
I don't even know. Well, no, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but and it's a simplified version. But
right. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, right. So I think what evolution claims is over periods of time, you wouldn't grow a chicken beak. There might be somebody hunched over, and then a couple hundred years, like something might open up, and you're.
That reminds me of the first Neanderthal that they claim to have found. Okay. They found out that it was just like I said, they found out it was just a really old man who had acromegaly. Whenever the creationists from the Creation Evidence Museum, the scientists from the Creation Evidence Museum went and analyzed the same Neanderthal bones, okay, they determined that it was not and that the first Neanderthal person, the first person that was called a Neanderthal, or the first skeleton that was called a Neanderthal skeleton, was not an ape that was coming up. It was a man, just an old man who had acromegaly. He had problems with his skeleton, might even have syphilis, and he was going down. That's why he was deteriorating, and he just lived a really long time. And
so we don't have any Neanderthal.
Oh yeah, there's Neanderthal skeletons. There is Neanderthal skeletons, but like I said, these were really old people. Okay, hundreds of years after Noah's flood, and that this is what the scientists from Creation Evidence, and these are PhD scientists, okay, from Creation Evidence's museum, and their explanation is that these Neanderthals were just living after Noah's flood, and they were, after Noah's flood, you've got people who were still living to be hundreds of years old, and they, developed acromegaly, and and as you get older, you notice the bone structure changes. Your eyebrows, your ridges on your eyebrows continue to grow out. Your nose continues to enlarge. Stuff keeps changing. Your jawbone, it continually gets bigger. I don't know forever, but I mean it gets bigger proportionally according to your body. Okay, and you begin to look a little bit different.
The back settles.
Right.
The vertebrae in the disc and the back change their alignment, and people shrink.
Yep, and they start hunching over and stuff. And you just begin to look different as you get older, and you don't look the same as you did whenever you're young and youthful and stuff. So your body deteriorates, and that's it. That's what there is to it.
And Mary actually commented on that.
Okay.
On the earlier part of this, but she said evolution does not happen rapidly, just like growing a chicken beak. It happens over long periods of time as kinds, aka species, adapt to different outside influences. You can see this in the bones of whale fins that are similar to finger bones. They have no function anymore, so they've grown smaller over time.
Yeah, she's describing one of the theories for evolution, but what I was describing would be an example of punctuated equilibrium, which is a kind of evolution that happens very rapidly. Like if you were to be born, if all of a sudden a human was to be born with a beak, X-Men, okay, what's happening with the X-Men in the Marvel Universe, that's an example of punctuated equilibrium. Okay, that's evolution that doesn't take place over time, it happens quickly. And the mutations that they have are beneficial as opposed to they help them. It doesn't hurt them. Some of the mutations that they have, such as in the case of Rogue, she has a bad mutation where she touches you, she sucks all your life energy out of you, and that's a bad mutation.
But that's also like
but also benefits her But it also benefits her though. But it doesn't benefit other people. Right.
Very.
So
what about microevolutions? Right, the eyebrows, the nose, the back, the chin bone. Are those microevolutions?
no, that's just as people get older, everything changes.
No, well,
I mean, if you go from a baby to being a grown man,
Just growing.
you know, that's not evolution.
Aging.
That's just you're just maturing. You're aging.
Mhm.
You know, and then you're a grown man and you're 26, 35 years old, and then as you get older, you know, you start to
Macroevolution.
yeah, you're not holding up. You know, it's just time passes. You're just not holding up. There's differences. You know, your bones. You know, people develop gout in the bones, and people develop all kinds of physical problems that's not evolution. That's just life process.
Well, I think what he's
Stuff
saying
happens.
is like if you're having 6 generations down, are your genetics going to be able to process and pick out the strongest attributes to keep? Because if you go back, probably how young do you say the world is?
6,000.
So if you go back 6,000 years, and you look at a person,
Adam.
if you look at Adam, is he going to look like you?
Did you ever see Superman? The Man of Steel?
Yeah.
Okay. He had he had something infused into his body called the Codex. Okay. And this was basically all of the genetic material that was necessary for producing another population of Kryptonians. Okay. And he had all the genetics that he needed infused into his body. You know, in the latest Man of Steel movie, he had all the genetics that was needed infused into his body to be able to produce another population of Kryptonians and keep the Kryptonian race alive. Okay. Now think about Adam. Adam was Superman Kal-El. Adam had all the genetics that we need to keep us going, to get us going and get us started to get where we are today.
Okay, so you believe literally Adam and had him and Eve were the
perfect human specimen.
The 2 perfect human specimens.
They had all the genetics that's in you, me, him, everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
It was all in them first.
Okay. So I'm assuming from the pictures I've seen, Adam and Eve are a white guy and a white
Now, we could not.
I've never seen photos of them, but Mary says developing disease within a single person's lifetime.
They weren't necessarily white.
But Mary.
Okay, what does Mary say?
Maybe I was incorrect by trying to be the antagonist and devil's advocate here by almost playing dumb, even though
that's cool.
I know better.
So ask the question.
So she says developing disease within a single person's lifetime is not what evolution is at all. That's not what evolution means.
Yes.
And you weren't saying that they were, but
yeah, that's absolutely right.
You're explaining that
evolution is developing a disease over a lifetime. Yeah, I think she's responding to you.
Right
there. Yeah.
Because I was trying to claim
that's not a question. That's not a statement.
I was trying to claim microevolution.
Yeah, she's correcting you right there.
Long nose hair.
I think another claim to another thing is evolution wouldn't work in a young Earth model. It would have to take thousands, millions of years in order for this kind of process to happen. So I understand why
and it goes back to the flat Earth model. With the flat Earth model, evolution falls on its face because we're in an enclosed cosmology. If we are in an enclosed system, okay, then that means that some higher intelligence put us here.
So you think the possibility of evolution existing is, and versus the possibility of a flat Earth wins every
It's
time.
Easier to believe
to believe flat Earth than
okay.
it is evolution.
It's basically if a person is taught evolution,
yes,
side by side with creation.
Yep.
Okay. If you're actually taught by a good teacher, creation side by side with evolution, the normal smart person, I personally believe that the normal person would go with creation every single time as a more logical belief.
Yep.
If a person were taught flat Earth or enclosed cosmology, I prefer. If a person were taught the enclosed cosmology versus heliocentrism, okay, I personally believe that the person would go close the cosmology every single time.
Do you think you're a smart
That's why I so easily transitioned to the enclosed cosmology. Because it takes less faith to believe in than the heliocentric.
So there's a lot of things that I believed in when I was a kid that I found out later.
And Santa Claus.
Were total crap. Right. So I would say that the 29-year-old version of me, way smarter than the 6-year-old version of me.
Mm-hmm. Did you say
way smarter than the 6-year-old?
Oh, way smarter.
Yeah. Way smart.
Yeah.
I would hope.
Yeah.
So it would be way easier to teach me something where it takes less brain power to understand. Like if I was like, oh, everything's here, very simple, because the way that, because you can show me a flat Earth, and like you show me one picture, I'm like, oh, I know how that works.
Okay.
Like I see it. It's got a little universe in it. It's got a sun. It's got a moon. It's got clouds surrounded. That's everything I need to know. It's a simple answer for a very complex thing. And as I've gotten older, you learn. First you learn subtraction, addition. Then you learn the more complicated stuff. Then you learn how to divide and multiply. And then you get into algebra. Then you get into, pre-cal. Then you get into calculus. Then you get into theoretical. Then you get into higher levels. But you would not be able to explain that to me as a first grader.
Right.
Like that would be like, what? What are you talking about? I'm sticking to this enclosed cosmology. Mm-hmm. I'm sticking to the enclosed cosmology because that's what I get. So that's
I lost you.
Okay.
You went from saying that you believe in.
So now that I understand more.
Okay.
Now that I understand more, and I can comprehend more, it's just like, oh, okay, I can kind of see.
You have more of a frame of reference,
right,
than what you had in the first.
Right, I can do a lot of pre-calculus. I can do some calculus. I can almost do these things. Not very well.
Yeah.
But I know people in the classroom do them way better and do them right every single time.
Right.
And those are the guys making ballistic missiles and whatever. And because they went further with that.
Right.
So I put a lot of faith in them because I've seen how smart they are.
And you've also got to remember the enclosed cosmology that I believe now has evolved mostly because I use that word evolved. But anyways, it's developed.
Over.
Yeah. But it's developed mostly as a result of us not going back into space over the last 50 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's run through a few
Well,
things.
it's a space station.
And let's see if you got a problem with this.
Okay.
Number one, we went to the moon on our first try.
Yes.
You have a problem with that?
No.
No problem. Okay.
No problem.
You think that, number two. All right. Today, we do not go out any further than 400 miles. Okay. Which is less than 1% of the distance to the moon. We go out into low Earth orbit. No further.
Huh? Are you talking about satellites?
I'm talking about the manned space station and all of our trips out into space back since 1972. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the highest that we go right now is low Earth orbit, and I think that the highest that and within that it's 400 miles is the highest that we go. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is only 1%. That's not even 1% of the distance to the moon. Okay. We don't even travel out beyond 1% of the distance to the moon.
How far is it to the moon?
On any kind of 237,000 miles, or 38, 39.
225, yeah.
Depending on the day of the week.
Yeah, the season.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And we don't even go 1% of that distance today. Mm-hmm. And we haven't gone that far since 1972. We did it 6 times between 1969 and 1972. We don't go beyond 1% of the distance. Okay.
We weren't the only ones to go on the moon, though, right? Chinese and Russians did it too.
I think Chinese faked it also. Okay. I'm pretty sure that they
did. The Russians?
No, the Russians have not been to the moon.
Russians have not been. No. So just China now.
Yeah, just China.
Or
I'm pretty sure that the Chinese faked it.
Suppose.
What? Yeah. Chinese. You can whenever you look at the
I
Chinese.
guess this kind of thing
you look
doesn't.
at the Chinese stuff.
Yeah.
That looks real fake. It debunks itself. But go ahead. You were about to say
I guess this doesn't. A lot of this really doesn't affect your day to day. You know, I mean, like you can sort of get on and do everything pretty much like.
What it does affect?
Yeah. What does it affect?
What does it affect?
Yeah.
Knowing the truth. The truth is important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Helping people go to heaven is important because the first thing one of the first things that we're taught as little kids is the globe.
Mm-hmm.
It's you'll see a globe, a spinning globe on your teacher's desk or in your house and that sort of thing, and your teacher says, "Oh, this is where we live, right here," and and that right there, it throws you off from the get go. It because all of a sudden, where there's infinite space, all of a sudden the heliocentric model, we're flying through space, going around the sun, and the sun is shooting off from Big Bang that happened, approximately 20 billion years ago, or 13.5 in some cases, depending on the day of the week.
Yeah.
And the sun is orbiting the Great Attractor, and the Great Attractor is shooting off from the Big Bang. It's just that's the first thing that throws a person off. How could the Bible actually be true? Genesis chapter 1, how could that be true? If we're just in this chaotic system that just started off from a Big Bang 13.5 billion years ago. How could that be true?
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I had a hard time with, and I remember still chose to believe the Bible, but I had a hard time with it.
I remember you openly were questioning the Bible at UTA.
Oh no,
you were having a lot of problems.
I wasn't questioning the Bible at all.
Oh, okay. Well, it was just like it was how could this be true and this not be true? It was more of like on a teetering thing. And now it sounds like you've gone fully into like every little bit of it.
I take the Bible more.
It's gotta be it's either all gonna be true or it's all false.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I take the Bible more literally now than I've ever taken it. Yeah. I literally, you want to. It gets a little bit deeper. With the enclosed cosmology, the Bible actually says that the throne room of God is literally above us.
Yeah.
He actually walks on the firmament. Okay. And also the Bible states that Sheol, that hell, is literally below us.
Yep.
Okay. And
we almost got there. We just deeper hole. We heard it, and they were like, "Fuck this," and they drilled it up. Yeah.
They welded it closed.
Yeah, they were like, "Nope." Big no. Fill it up.
Which does. There are a couple more holes.
Oh, you got a little globe up there. I didn't even see that.
Hey, there it is. Yeah,
there it is. That lie.
I believe.
Yeah, there's also a couple more holes that exist on the Earth that are not man-made, and these holes are very mysterious in that there's a lot of legend that surrounds them, and
there you go.
Do you want to hold it?
Yeah. We need to get a picture of you at the end and say, "This is crap," or like have this.
Have you ever held one?
Of course I have. I used to own one. This looks a lot like the one I used to own, but the one I used to own was bigger. Yeah, I used to think that was the coolest thing ever, having a globe.
You can still go to space, man.
Oh,
that's have to deny everything that you that you are at this point.
Explain to me, how is it that you think that space is a perfect vacuum, okay? But all the atmosphere is still sticking to the Earth. Explain. Well, there is no such thing as in nature, okay, of a atmosphere or of a gas that stays in its place next to an open vacuum. That does not happen there's no place in nature where that happens. But yet it happens in space. Our atmosphere sits next to a perfect vacuum of space.
Yep.
And does not leave the Earth. The atmosphere just sticks to the Earth. You know, does gravity really solve that problem? Does gravity really solve that problem?
I don't know how much gravity has to do with the atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
but all the atmosphere, to me, described as a 29-year-old buffoon, is a gaseous protective layer through
It's
through what, hundreds of miles? How deep is it? That is, it's made up of of just breathing hard. I mean, how would you even describe the atmosphere? It's like I haven't